What's up, everyone? Welcome back to The Lawyer You Know. It's Peter Tragos here, and today we're going to break down the Jussie Smollett sentencing hearing that occurred yesterday. And we've done a couple of sentencing hearings at this point, and I've gotten a lot of comments and questions from you, the viewers out there, about how judges share how they feel about a case and sometimes about how they feel about the defendant personally. Well, buckle up, because this judge tells us exactly how he feels about Jussie Smollett, exactly who he thinks Jussie Smollett is, and how he's going to pick a sentence that he thinks is fair based on who Jussie Smollett is, what he did, and the crimes he was convicted of. So hopefully you don't think it's too bad for a judge to share their opinion, because you're going to get a lot of this judge's opinion today. But I want you to let me know whether or not you think this penalty in this sentence is fair or unfair based on the crimes that Jussie Smollett was convicted of. And we're going to get a lot of detail about what he did, what he was convicted of, and his past, because he's not going to have a ton of aggravating factors. And the max in this case is really not that much, as in the beginning of this sentencing hearing, I skipped a couple minutes of it just because it's 40 minutes long. We'll try to get through the whole thing in today's video. But he talked about how some people said, can't he stack all of these 5 counts that he was convicted of and give him up to 15 years? He said no. Basically, 180 days in prison and 30 days of probation is the max sentence. We'll see if Jussie Smollett gets any jail time at all. And if he does, how close to the max is the judge going to give him? So those are some of the things we're going to look at today, and we're going to break down what the judge says, what it means. Before this, lawyers from both sides got up, presented evidence. Again, letters were submitted, and the prosecutor, the special prosecutor, basically focused his argument on the fact that Jussie Smollett blamed everybody. Blamed the cops, blames prosecutors, blames the judges, blames the media, blames politicians, blames everybody but himself for what happened. And he kissed up so much to the judge in this case, and the judge in the first few minutes of this kissed up to the special prosecutor, and what a great job they did donating their time prosecuting this case pro bono, because they had to go get a special prosecutor because the state attorney's office dropped the charges inexplicably. So bypass kind of all that to get to the judge's thoughts and the sentence, and then we're going to hear at the very end what Jussie Smollett thinks about this sentence, because he had a little outburst in the courtroom, which we'll talk about what happens when defendants do that. So if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to our page. Let's jump into the video.
Strictly for Mr. Smollett, it's going to be fashioned for him. And when a judge sentences somebody, and I've been doing this for quite a while now, you have to look at both the crime that was committed and the person that committed it. How did the person get here? Who is this person? What is the crime? Put them together. You look at the sentencing range. You try to find something that is just and fits, makes sense, and that is right. And that's what we're going to do. Let me tell you, Mr. Smollett, I know that there is nothing that I will do here today that can come close to the damage you've already done to your own life. You've turned your life upside down by your misconduct and shenanigans. You've destroyed your life as you knew it. And there's nothing that any sentencing judge could do to you that can compare to the damage you've already done to yourself. So who is Jussie Smollett? Who are you? And how, out of all people in the world, did you get to be here, sitting in the courtroom in Chicago at a sentencing hearing, convicted of faking, hoaxing, racial and homophobic hate crimes? How in the world did this happen? So there are ironies in this case. And the ironies are many, and they are profound. And I'm talking about the testimony I heard under oath from Mr. Smollett, corroborated in large part by the pre-sentence investigation. Mr. Smollett chose to take the witness stand, which of course is his right. He took an oath and got on the witness stand, and the first thing he did was to introduce himself to the jury. He wanted the jury to know who he was, where he came from, what he was about. And I heard it on the witness stand. I heard it corroborated today by the witnesses that came and testified on his behalf. There's no question. Mr. Smollett was born into a mixed-race family. His mom is an African-American woman. His dad was a white Jewish man. There were 6 siblings. And if you can say anything about this family, we're talking about a very, very tight-knit family, a village that was always in sync with each other, that cared about each other, that was completely, wholly supportive of each other. You know that this family knew about matters about social justice more than anything else. That's what the family stood for. It is part of the fabric of their existence. I know that Jussie Smollett grew up knowing to be sensitive to matters about racial discrimination, any kind of discrimination, any kind of social injustice. As a matter of fact, I'm learning more about it as we're going on in the letters I've been receiving and the testimony I've heard today. He's been doing this all his life. He doesn't just talk the talk, he's walking the walk. He's out there, he's advocating, he's involved in the community. He cares deeply about social justice issues. And for you now to sit here, convicted of hoaxing hate crimes, racial hate crimes, and homophobic hate crimes, the hypocrisy is just astounding.
So, if anybody's ever wondering, again, why criminal defendants sometimes don't take the stand, a lot of reasons we know. We've talked about their past, if they have prior felonies, if they can look bad, if they have prior statements that are inconsistent, even if they're telling the truth that they didn't do it, sometimes they can get beat up on the stand. Well, another reason and another consideration we talk about with all of our criminal defense clients before taking the stand at trial is if you get convicted, you can get hammered either on sentencing, you can have additional charges like perjury added, and a judge can really not like you if they feel like you got up, told a story, and lied, and get convicted by all the other witnesses that testified against you. And right now, the judge is kind of setting up the fact that how ironic it is that Jussie Smollett gets up there and says, I fight for these rights for homosexuals and African Americans, yet you're convicted of hoaxing a fake hate crime. And the irony of it. And the judge just has disgust in his voice. And you can see in the title of the YouTube video, the judge blasts Jussie Smollett. Let's continue.
One word to begin. I remember one thing that will always stick in my mind, and I've been involved in so many trials over the years, but something happened in this trial that was remarkable. And it talks about your sensitivity to issues of social justice. You're on the witness stand. You're being cross-examined. Your liberty is at stake. It is your criminal trial. Mr. Webb is winding through some things on cross-examination, and he's going through some social media communications, and whether it was Instagram or chat or text, a little quibbling about that, that doesn't matter. But Mr. Webb found a line that he wanted to confront you with. He said, didn't you say, and he used the word starting with the letter N, meet me at this place at this time, and I'm paraphrasing. And rather than just answer the question, which was what this is supposed to do and expected to do in a criminal trial, you stopped the proceedings. You said, Mr. Webb, out of respect for all the African American people in this courtroom, you should not be using that word. And I was amazed. But it showed, and I'm not talking about the pairing and the gamesmanship that they want between the prosecutor and the witness on the stand. That's not why I'm telling this, recalling this event. But what I'm talking about is how sensitive you were to any kind of slight. That anybody, if the wrong words come out of somebody else's mouth, you're going to get up and speak up and complain about it, and make sure that they know that they're not behaving the way you're supposed to behave. So you know better than anybody else that these are serious matters. They're serious to you. They're clearly serious to you, as your whole family. And for you to be here now, convicted of these hate crimes, it's just astonishing. Faking hate crimes. So why does that? That's a good question. I think it's a question on everybody's mind. There's some conjecture you did it for the money. Frankly, I do not believe that you did it for the money. You were making, the evidence showed, close to $2 million a year when this happened. I don't think money motivated you at all. The only thing I can find is that you really craved the attention, and you wanted to get the attention, and you were so invested in issues of social justice, and you knew that this was a sore spot for everybody in this country. You knew this was a country that was slowly trying to heal past injustices and current injustices and trying to make a better future for each other. And it was a hard road. And you took some scabs off some healing wounds and you ripped them apart for one reason. You wanted to make yourself more famous. And for a while.
Wow. So those are some strong words for the judge. That some people say you did it for the money. I think you did it for the attention. I think some people would argue they go hand in hand because the more attention he gets, the more money he makes. And the more likely he would be. I don't know if you remember back at the time, I think he was getting kicked off Empire or something, or did get kicked off Empire because of this. But I think the judge really brought it home with, you picked something you were really passionate about, like social justice. And the whole country was trying to heal. Current injustices, past injustice, we're trying to work together to build a better future. and you just spit in the face of that, basically pulled off the scabs as we were trying to heal slowly. I'm interested to hear how all of you feel about what this judge is saying, because we have a lot of people that like to talk about different issues in our country right now through our YouTube page. And I love it. Talk about it in the comments. We can discuss it, discuss what we can do better, what cases you think are based on race or are not based on race. Because I have a feeling there are going to be some people that feel this sentence, when we get to it, is harsher because of Jussie Smollett's race. But I also feel like we're going to have some people that argue it is not harsh enough because of what Jussie Smollett did to hurt all of the real hate crimes, like Ahmaud Arbery. In that case, that those defendants were actually convicted of hate crimes, but to make it even harder for people to move forward on hate crimes because Jussie Smollett is now convicted of faking this one and basically pulling off scabs or spitting in the face of it, like this judge is saying. I think some people are going to be angry that this wasn't harsh enough, because people need to be deterred from doing things like this, because there are real hate crimes that need to be punished severely in our country. And to fake them like a celebrity like this just hurts all the normal people that this happens to, and they don't have all the attention and the media coverage and the responsibility that Jussie Smollett has and the platform that he has. It just makes it harder for all of them. So I'm interested what side of the aisle you're on, or if you just think it was fair and he based this crime and this sentence based on Jussie Smollett and what he did. I'm interested to hear how people all over the political map, race map, whatever, maybe religion map, homosexual map, like whatever. Tell me what you think about this sentence and whether or not you agree with how the judge is explaining it, and how what's going on in our country, I think, did come into play with Jussie Smollett. And do you think he did it for attention? Do you think he did it for money? Those are other things I'd like to hear in the comments. Or do you think he's innocent?
That worked. Everybody was talking about you. The lights are on you. You were actually throwing a national pity party for yourself. And why would you do such a thing? Why would you? I understand you crave the attention so much, but why would you betray something like social justice issues, which you care so much about? The only thing I can conclude is that, and I acknowledge there are wonderful sides to you. There are very giving and charitable and loving sides to you. But you have another side of you that is profoundly arrogant and selfish and narcissistic. That's the only thing that can be concluded. And that bad side of you came out during the course of all these events. We'll talk about hate crimes for a minute. I've been a criminal judge for many years, and I've heard many victims of crimes testify in front of me. And any victim of a crime, no matter what the crime is, they are demoralized by what happens to them. It doesn't matter if you're injured unjustifiably, if somebody hurts you, and maybe cripples you or damages you in some fashion that's going to be long-standing injuries. If your property is stolen, your vehicles are stolen, people go into your homes, your possessions are stolen, people do all kinds of terrible things. It is a demoralizing experience. And sometimes it's the worst experience that anybody can ever go through in their entire life. And then if it turns out that the motivation for the criminal to do something bad to you was because they hate you because of your race, because of your ethnicity, because of your gender, your sexual orientation, your religion, your age, your disability. If that was the reason for it, it is exponentially worse. There is nothing worse than to be a victim of a hate crime. It is the worst thing that can happen, especially in our country with all our history and all that we're going through now to try to get around some of these issues. Hate crimes are the absolute worst. And I believe that you did damage to real hate crimes, to hate crime victims. There are people that are actual, genuine victims of hate crimes that you did damage to. These are people that have a difficult time coming forward. They may be mistrustful. They may not want to bring it to the attention of the community or first responders. There may be some trepidation. I don't know for sure how much damage there was. I don't know how this is going to impact other people, if they're going to be hesitant to come forward because they're going to think that they're going to be accused of acting like you and doing the stuff like you pulled here. I don't know if first responders are going to be more doubtful and skeptical of people that come forward, real victims of hate crime, because of what you did here. I'm hoping it's not that way. And I'll show one of the ironies in this case, and I find this pretty profound. I got letters from people that advocate victims of hate crime their entire lives. They devote their lives to this, and I'm talking in particular. Garrett Johnson, president of the NAACP, Reverend Jesse Jackson, an icon here in Chicago, no introduction is necessary. They devote their whole lives to addressing issues about social injustice and hate crimes. And they are here today asking me to show you mercy. And I take that seriously. I find it profound. And I take it seriously.
So it's interesting. He's saying, you're a proponent of social justice. All these other social justice leaders are here. They're asking me to have mercy on you, even though I feel like you've just made it harder for everyone that's an actual victim of a hate crime. So it's interesting the things these judges have to weigh. And then earlier on, the first 7 minutes that I skipped, he also talked about how there's a lot of cameras around and a lot of people are interested in this, but that doesn't affect his decision at all. Now, different, the media attention doesn't affect his decision, but people that are actually there speaking on behalf of Jussie Smollett and writing letters does make a difference. That's the difference in a sentencing hearing. Outside forces of the case don't make a difference, but something that actually is inside the case and used by one of the sides and comes forward through one of the sides, that is something that can have an effect on the judge's decision.
I know that they're in a better position than myself to educate the public about that topic, about the damage you've done to real victims of hate crime. And I am confident that because of all the attention that you've garnered here on this case, that they are going to seize the opportunity and they will educate the public and they'll be talking about this. And they'll try to mitigate some of the damage that you've caused to real victims of hate crimes, and they're better in a position to do it than I am. And I will defer. And I will acknowledge that you have done some real damage. We'll talk about your premeditation. Yeah, I've been a criminal judge for many years. And I know that people end up where you are right now, awaiting sentencing on their criminal trial. How did they get to court? How did that happen? There's some people that wake up in the morning, they have no intention of doing anything wrong. They're not looking to do anything criminal. That's the last thing on their mind. But there are crimes of impulse that happen. Road rage, a barroom fight, bumping into somebody, word.
So we hear the word premeditation a lot with murder, but it also can be applied to other cases. The mens rea that we learn about in law school, especially for criminal cases, what was your mindset? Did you plan it? Did you want to do it? Did you mean to do it? Did you think about the consequences, or did you just react? That makes a big difference in your sentence and how this judge feels about the case.
Words are exchanged that somebody finds insulting, and sometimes weapons are available, and the results can be horrific, and they can be permanent. And people are sitting here and they're wondering themselves, how did I get here? I wasn't looking for trouble. The trouble just seemed to find them in crimes of impulse. And when I'm saying that I have to put the person and the crime together and try to mix them and understand who it is that committed this crime within the sentencing range, and that's part of my job to do, I consider how the person got here. So this is not a crime of impulse. There are also crimes of opportunity. Walking down the street and somebody else, so they left keys in the car with the motor running, and they take the car. Or they're in the department store and they see someone put the credit card on this side and they go to adjust their baggage on the other side and grab the credit card. Those are crimes of opportunity. They didn't wake up thinking they're going to commit a crime, but something just looked too tempting to them. They use very bad judgment, and then they get in trouble, they get caught, and here they are. But then there are crimes of premeditation. Mr. Smollett, that's what you are all about here, crime of premeditation. You did wake up in the morning thinking you were going to do something bad and something wrong. And I know more today about this than I ever did before, that there are some wonderful things about you. And I know how people, they cherish you, and they cherish your relationships, and they cherish the good works that you've done. And they love you sincerely and deeply. And they're not faking, they're not lying when they talk to me about their feelings about you, and good things that you've done. But you had that dark side, and this is what happened here. You premeditated this case to an extreme that's amazing. You wrote a script. The script involved words. You're going to encounter me on the street, yell out empire, N-word, F-word. You're going to hit me. You're going to beat me up. You're going to put bleach on me. You're going to put a noose around my neck. It's a script that you wrote. Now, it's not a good script, especially for Streeterville in Chicago. It's questionable, but it's a script that you wrote. You picked out the actors. You chose the Oceanero brothers. Why did you do that?
So again, I mean, it couldn't be worse for you if you're sitting in Jussie Smollett's seat right now and you're his lawyers, when you start to hear him reiterate all of these terrible facts and how he puts in his little comments. Like, it wasn't a very good script, but this is the script you wrote. You plan to do something bad. Not good when it comes to mitigation or aggravation of your sentence. If you're looking for just probation, we can know at this point the judge ain't doing that. He's not just giving you probation. Jussie Smollett's going to jail. The only question is, how many of those 180 days is he going to go to jail for?
Because you knew them. You trusted them. They idolized you. You're an established actor in a serious television production of Empire. They were kind of hangers on there. They're trying to get jobs as extras, maybe a little speaking part here and there, but you were mentoring them. You were helping them. They wanted your advice. They would do anything for you. They thought you were one of the greatest people in the world to know that you could help them in their careers. They're in great shape. Gave you a little advice about diet and exercise, but they idolized you. They would have done anything for you, and you chose them because you knew that you could trust them, that they were loyal to you. You paid them in advance by check. Not necessarily a good idea.
Did you see the judge go, as criminal defense lawyers and criminal judges, we see this stuff. We know if you're going to commit a crime, you don't pay somebody with a personal check. I think what he's probably thinking is, Jussie Smollett, not a career criminal, not an experienced criminal, because an experienced criminal probably would have paid in cash. But again, I digress. It's just an interesting to see that judges think, because that's something in the criminal defense and lawyer community where you'd be shocked how many criminals pay by personal check. And it's so easily connected back to them. It's wild.
It was your idea. It was part of the plan that you paid them in advance. And the check was out there. The check was shown as evidence. That was part of your premeditation. You chose the date. You chose the time. You chose the location. You had cops prepared. You gave them a $100 bill and had them get the supplies. What are the supplies in this case? And masks. Nobody should see you. We're going to say that you're white. Obviously, the Sandero brothers are not white. We're going to cover your faces with masks. We're going to have a red hat because that's going to indicate MAGA country. We're going to get a rope. We're going to use as a noose. We're going to procure some bleach. We're going to have the supplies. And you had all that together, and then you did rehearsals. You picked them up and you did drive-bys. You drove around and around the block. You picked them up in Lakeview, in their neighborhood, some distance away. You went to Streeterville, where you were living, and you showed them. You're going here, you're going there, and you're going over the lines. You're going over the script with them, so they would memorize the script. You're indicating which brother. You're the one that's going to hit me. You're the one that's going to put the noose around my neck and pour the bleach out me. This was planned. This was premeditated. Premeditated to the extreme. And I find that your extreme premeditation in this case is an aggravating factor.
And those are the buzzwords we're looking for as we watch sentencing. As all of you know, we've watched a couple of them together. Aggravating factors, meaning maybe I am going to max him out 180 days. Maybe I'm going to max him out $25,000 fine. Maybe I am going to max him out on the possible sentence. 30 months probation. We'll see.
Talk about the incident itself. It's all set up. All Sandero brothers are on board. Your plane is running late. Now you had a chance right then and there. Think, okay, I'm really late. I'm 4 hours late. This can't go down. It's freezing in Chicago. We're on the verge of a polar vortex. You might have just thought about it and said, maybe it's not in the cards. Maybe the karma is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. But no. You double down. You start communicating with the brothers through social media. Now, whether it was by text or chats or Instagram, public or private, one way or another, you kept in touch with them. And there was some quibbling about the specifics about how you kept in touch with them. But they knew what time you were coming in. And now the time is pushed back to 2 o'clock in the morning in the freezing cold weather. It's double digits below zero at 2 o'clock in the morning. You have to have a reason to be out on the street. And the reason you chose is you come up with the story that you needed to get some eggs at Walgreens at 2 o'clock in the morning. If not that, you're going to go to Subway and get a sandwich and a salad and get something to eat at 2 o'clock in the morning in the freezing cold. You did one more thing. You got the Sandero brothers. Now they're on board with you. You're using them as your patsies. You have your friend. You get your friend Brandon on the phone, and here's a man, a professional man that's trying to help you in your career. You're not sure what town he's in, if he's in Australia or not, but you get him on the phone, and he's going to be your patsy also. because he's going to listen and be around on the phone to hear that you're being attacked by somebody. Now, he doesn't know what's going on. That's really not an attack, but he's going to be able to corroborate your story. So you're getting that together. You got Brandon on the phone. You're out on the street, ostensibly to get some Subway. You get some Subway, and you're walking to where this is supposed to take place. Now, the Oceanero brothers, they're getting ready too. And they're doing this because you want them to do it on the sneak. No cell phones involved. Make sure nobody sees you get there. And what they think is some kind of clever way of getting there, they have an Uber pick them up from their home in Lakeview. They take the Uber to Old Town. It's a different neighborhood. They get out of the Uber and they get into a cab. Now, the cab is supposed to go to Streeterville, but not to the scene where this is supposed to happen, a few blocks away. So nobody actually sees them get out of the cab, and this works out the way you want it to work out. So they get there a little early, they're walking around, they're sitting on a bench for a minute, but at 2 o'clock, the time that you said this is supposed to happen, at the place you said it was supposed to happen, at the moment you said it was supposed to happen, they appear. So you're talking to Brandon on the phone, you have your Subway in hand, and they follow the script. Hey, Empire, word with the letter N, word with the letter F. There's a scuffle. They pour bleach on you. Brandon's listening to this. They attempt to put a noose around your neck during the scuffling. You're getting a little abrasion and scrape on your face. A car goes by, and the brothers take off. They leave. They never did get the noose around your neck. So what do? You gather your belongings. You get the cell phone. You're talking to Brandon. Hey, you could jump? Yeah, I got jumped. I got mugged. Did you hear what happened? Trying to make sure that he heard the words that were spoken. You grabbed your food, and you took the noose that they never did get around your neck, and you put it around your own neck. I repeat, you put the noose around your own neck.
He repeated, he puts the noose around his own neck. I mean, these facts that are now determined to be true by a jury legally are brutal for Jussie Smollett in this case. Just brutal. For anybody that wasn't able to follow the trial very much, you're getting all the facts that came out in trial for which he was convicted.
You go home. Video footage shows that when you walk into your residence, you have this noose dangling loosely around your neck. You go into your apartment, the police are called, the police arrive. The first officer on the scene is Chicago Police Officer Muhammad Bedi, in full uniform. The first responder, the first responders. His body camera's on. He sees you. And now he sees that that noose is around your neck. It's not the way that you walked into the house. Now the noose is up. Part of your plan. Officer Bedi asks a simple question. What happened? And then you start to lie. And you haven't stopped lying ever since. You've been lying and lying and lying about this case. And that's why you're here today.
You started lying. You've lied ever since. All you've done is lied, lied, lied. You haven't stopped lying throughout the entirety of this case. Not good. And again, this is what can come back to bite you when you take the stand, because he's going to add in what he said on the stand as more lies under oath. If they really wanted to hammer Jussie Smollett, they could absolutely add perjury charges.
You want to fake an incident on the street, try to get some attention at work, try to have somebody else feel sorry for you. That would never have got you here. The problem was you lied to the police, and you caused all kinds of consternation. You caused a major investigation to take place, which got many people involved and caused great stress throughout the city and throughout the entire community here. And that's the problem. That's why you're here now. Those are the crimes you're convicted of. Not the shenanigans out there, but the lying about it, making it up. And that's why we're here now.
So he says even the shenanigans in the street, which they talk about the brothers that were involved, that's not what he was charged with, and that's not what he was convicted of. It's the lying and the filing the false police reports. That is what he's convicted of. That's disorderly conduct there. But that's what it is. It's the lying. It's not the fake setup hate crime.
Your lies at the hospital. 6 counts were put together. The jury found you guilty of 5 of them. One was a little bit different than the others, and I understand that. Let me say, from my vantage point, I was obviously here at every stage of this trial. I thought the jury's verdict was accurate, correct, wholly corroborated, but could only be described as overwhelming evidence of guilt against you for lying. That's the crime you're here for, lying to the police.
Overwhelming evidence. Again, another aggravating term.
Well, Officer Bay took this very seriously. He said, that's a horrible thing that happened. And he started the process of police investigation. Detectives got involved. You ended up at the hospital. All things were starting to happen, and this word got out. You're not just a person. You have a little bit of celebrity about you. You were known in some circles as a very competent actor, a really good actor in a very serious television production called Empire, and people knew about this. And because you're a celebrity, and because you've been so active in all these social justice causes, and this is what is so unbelievable about this case, that you of all people are here convicted of hoaxing hate crimes. You who know better, who are out there in the world trying to be something for the good in social justice causes, that you ended up here right now like this. It's crazy, but you know people in high places, elected public officials. They reacted. You knew mainstream journalists. They reacted. You became the first page, your front page news. You're talked about in the halls of Congress. People are talking about making laws to prevent what happened to you to happen to anybody else. People on mainstream media are decrying what happened. What kind of country is this? How could they do this to Jussie? How do you know Jussie? He's such a gentle guy. He's the guy that was described to me by all the family and friends that I heard from today. And I believe that Jussie exists. But you use them as your pansies too. They were giving you the national pity party you wanted. They're putting you on the front page. All the attention is on you. When people talk about social injustice, your name is coming up first, which is exactly what you wanted. But you used them. If anything, people in those positions, elected public officials, mainstream journalists, their credibility is everything to them. And you didn't care that you might be damaging it. You did damage them because, again, there's a side of you that has this arrogance and selfishness and narcissism that's just disgraceful. You plan to work the course until it did. We're in Chicago. You lived here for 5 years, working on the Empire show, and you have to know, as well as anybody that lives in Chicago, the Chicagoans, they love their city. They're fiercely loyal to the city, and believe me, Chicagoans know we don't all agree with each other on a lot. There are all kinds of disagreements on what our city should be, what the vision should be for the future. There's even disagreements about what our past was like. But despite all the disagreements and all the things that are not right with Chicago, it's sweet home to Chicago to the Chicagoans. Chicagoans are fiercely loyal to their city. The Chicagoans have one thing in common that they agree on, that there's no misunderstandings, everybody's on the same page. And that page is crime is a problem. It is a major problem. Nobody disagrees. And we know that police resources, they are valuable. They're limited. Detective resources are precious. And they cannot be squandered. And what you did, because you were selfishly, arrogantly, and narcissistically bringing attention to yourself. It's the only reason you could have been doing such a crazy thing that you did, was you took away a lot of resources from other places, from other real victims of real crimes. You used up the police resources for your own benefit, and that's a big problem here.
So that's the other thing, is a huge problem with this, and with always filing false resources, the wasted time and resources that they could be helping other cases. We talked about that a lot in other videos, and we're going to hear to the tune of how much money Jussie Smollett wasted and what he has to pay back in restitution.
What you did is you created what we call around here a heater. What's a heater? A heater is a case that when it's reported to the public conscience is shocked. Shocked to such an extreme that the public is demanding that these solve this crime here, right now, right here, right now. Everything else has to take second place. The heater has to be addressed. And you created a heater. And boy, did they put on an investigation. And I know that I've been listening to Chicago police officers and listening about police investigations for many years. It's certainly not a perfect police department, It's perhaps unfairly maligned in some respects as well. I'll match the homicide detectives here against any in the country for their competence and thoroughness. Not a question about that. But what they did in this case is extraordinary. I have never seen, even in some murder cases, the amount of police work that went into this investigation. You did exactly what you didn't want to happen. They put so many police resources into this. When I say what you didn't want to happen, is you never wanted this case solved. You thought that somehow you'd be able to skate by and nobody would ever know what really happened here. And you're going to walk away from this. And it didn't go down like that at all, of course. So they solved the case. And what happened? Turns out that you're not a victim of a hate crime. You're not a victim of a racial hate crime. You're not a victim of homophobic hate crime. You're just a charlatan pretending to be a victim of a hate crime. And that's shameful, especially from the family you got brought up with your family values. It's so sad. The damage you've done to yourself is way beyond anything else that can happen to you from me or any other judge that could be sentencing you in this criminal case. You are now a permanently convicted felon. Your family who loves you and supports you, I only want to use the word forgive, because forgiveness isn't necessary. They're with you so much. They're so tight-knit, but you have to live with the fact that you really put them through a ringer.
So he says you're going to be a convicted felon forever, and that's a big one. For normal people, that is a big one, to be a convicted felon forever.
You embarrassed your valuable friends in high places, elected public officials, people in the media. You embarrassed them. You have to live with that. I don't know if those relationships can be repaired. You become toxic in your own workplace. Your career future is uncertain at very best. It was really on a rocket ship to success, and now you turn yourself into riches to rags, and it's so unfortunate. Your very name has become an adverb for lying, and I cannot imagine what could be worse than that. People talk about the situation where somebody's in a line and trying to manipulate and maneuver a story, and your name comes up. You're just, oh, William Jussie, something like that. That's awful. You're the butt of jokes. Comedians.
This judge is going in hard, ripping him to shreds at this point.
Mainstream talk show hosts, they make jokes about you. They do sketches about you. I can't imagine anything worse than that. No, this is all self-inflicted. These are things you did to yourself. This is self-damage. Well, some people may think that what you did is funny, and there's some room for humor and jokes about it. But I assure you, this court does not. I don't think there is anything funny at all about hoaxing and faking racial hate crimes. Hoaxing or faking homophobic hate crimes. I think that is disgraceful. There is nothing funny about it. There's no humor in what you did whatsoever. All because you're selfish, arrogant, narcissistic. At least you have that side of you that came out through this case, and you kept doubling down and doubling down and doubling down. It's not funny. It's not funny at all. And I'm your sentencing judge, and I don't find it funny. So where are we at? We're at the end. You're convicted of a class 4 felony. It's presumptively probation, but we have some real serious aggravating factors here.
So that was interesting. He said it's presumptively probation, which means most of the time people that get convicted of this get probation. Most of the lawyers are going to presume it's going to be probation up to 30 months. But we have some seriously aggravating factors here, which means it ain't going to just be probation.
Your premeditation, which I described. The pain you caused to real victims of hate crimes, which I described. The damage you done to the city of Chicago, I heard. It's been talked about. I'm mindful of the city's request for restitution. I'm going to fashion that, consider that request. I have fashioned a sentence accordingly. And above all, the cabinet of all cabinets, your performance on the witness stand. It's good.
So here he says, above all else, and the worst aggravating factor is your performance on the witness stand. We knew it was coming. It had to based on his other comments. But taking the stand made it worse. Maybe he gets probation if he gets convicted without taking the stand. Who knows? But the judge says the worst factor is your performance on the stand.
Only be described as pure perjury. You got on the witness stand.
It can only be described as pure perjury. Wow. Wow. If they really want to throw the book at Jussie Smollett, they could charge him with that and convict him of perjury, which can get you even more jail time. Wow.
You have to, you did, you certainly have a right to, but you committed hour on hour on hour of pure perjury.
Wow.
And I find all those to be ample factors. If this court will decide that things you did, that any kind of probationary sentence to deprecate the seriousness of the offense and need to go to the penitentiary, the record is clear and we would support it. And I'm looking at everything in its totality. And I agree. He's told me today, you can't judge everybody by one bad thing they've done in their life. I don't know if it's the only bad thing, but it's the only bad thing that I'm concerned about now. And that you do have quite a record of real community service and quite a record of attaching with people. There is a lot of mitigation in this case as well. And I'm mindful of the pleas of mercy, particularly from people that are in the arena of dealing with social justice issues, that are fighting, seriously fighting, not playing around, not doing games like you were doing, but seriously fighting for matters involving hate crimes of all sorts. And they're asking for mercy as well. And so I'm trying to consider who you are as a person, how you got here, how somehow you strayed away from your family values, you let that dark, narcissistic, selfish, and arrogant side come out, and you persisted with it for years in this case. I'm passionate in following the sentence, and here's your sentence. The sentencing.
So here is his sentence. So if you haven't been paying attention, listen now. We're 45 minutes into the video. Listen now. Here is his sentence. Will he go to jail, and if so, for how long?
You do 30 months felony probation, and the probation is going to be to this court.
30 months of probation, no shocker. That's the max amount of probation. That's what he got.
You're going to be allowed to travel wherever you want. You do not have to live in the state of Illinois. You can work or like home. I know they don't live. They're going to try to make a living and do some things you do. You may have to go to other places, New York, Los Angeles. You can do those things. You will pay restitution to the city of Chicago, the amount of $120,106.
$120,000 in restitution to the city of Chicago. That's the amount of money and resources he wasted, let alone their time and efforts and other crimes that couldn't be investigated. But just in a dollar figure, $120,000 of resources spent investigating his fake hate crime that he was convicted of reporting. That's wild. Normal cases are like $1,000 in restitution.
You are fined $25,000, which is the maximum fine.
$25,000, maximum fine. We're seeing a theme here. Seems like he's getting the max of everything. So at this point, you might think 180 days probably coming for jail time.
And you will spend the first 150 days of your sentence in the Cook County Jail. And that will start today, right here, right now.
And there it is. You will serve the first 150 days in the Cook County Jail. That means 150 days in jail, which is going to, be part of his probation. It's within his 30 months probation, but 150 days in jail. And that's going to start right here, right now. You can't go home and get your things in order. No stays for appeals, no special treatment, nothing. Your 150 days of jail time are starting right now, right here. So Jussie Smollett will be going to jail. Sometimes people can get house arrest or get out or do certain things. And we've done them for some of our clients before where they never even end up in jail. Well, this judge does not want that to happen to Jussie Smollett. But now we get a little response from Jussie Smollett. Let's hear what he's going to say. And I'll just let you know, usually it's not normal that a criminal defendant is allowed to speak to the judge right after this. But because, once again, he is who he is, and he's a celebrity defendant, he is going to speak out in a bit of an outburst. I mean, we would have clients hushed and shushed and potentially put in cuffs if they did what he's about to do right now. But let's hear what he has to say.
Mr. Smollett, the jury found you guilty, and it says you have you have a right to appeal, fines, doing support, and that's to modify those things. You file a notice of appeal writing within 30 days. You also file a motion to modify your sentence, which you have to file in writing within 30 days. You cannot state in those filings or read for purposes of appeal. You can record waivers and transcripts. They would be provided free of charge. Do you have any questions?
No, I would just like to say to Your Honor that I'm not suicidal.
So the first thing he says, I'm not suicidal, which at first didn't make sense to me, but he's going to make it clear here in a second.
That's what I would like to say.
Okay.
I'm not suicidal.
Okay.
I am not suicidal. I am innocent, and I'm not suicidal.
And I don't know if you noticed, but the female lawyer to his left on the right side of our screen kind of touched his arm with her right arm, saying like kind of calm down and watch yourself and don't say anything you're going to regret here in open court. But he doesn't listen.
If I did this, then it means that I stuck my fist in the fears of Black Americans in this country for over 400 years and the fears of the LGBTQ community. Your Honor, I respect you and I respect the jury, but I did not do this. And I am not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself. And you must all know that.
So he's saying if he gets Jeffrey Epstein, he didn't do it to himself. And he's trying to say there's this bigger conspiracy out there trying to do this to him. And so weird is that if I did this, I'm innocent. If I did this, I stuck my fist in the face of Black Americans and LGBTQ Americans and basically and all the problems they have to go through. And I just basically spit in their face, which is exactly what the judge said since he was in fact convicted of that. But he maintains his innocence. He doubles, triples, quadruples down. And now he's basically intimating somebody's going to try to have him killed in jail.
I respect you, Your Honor. I respect your decision. Jail time. I am not suicidal.
Mr. Uche, let me fire. Are there any post-sentencing motions you care to present right now?
Yes, Judge.
Yes.
The defense would wish to present a motion to reconsider sentence and file any standard.
This timely file,
Thank you, Judge.
and let me say, I've obviously considered the sentence of great length. And it's timely file, so it's preserved for purposes of appeal, and to reconsider sentences respectively.
So she just makes an oral motion to reconsider the sentence right here, which is timely filed and preserved for appeal. As you heard the judge say, I've already considered this a lot, respectfully denied. So that motion is out. We'll see what happens now. I'm sure he's going to be filing things within the next 30 days fighting this sentencing. Wow, that was a lot. The judge said a lot. Didn't give him the full 180 days, but did give him 150 days in jail. Hopefully nothing happens to Jussie Smollett in jail. I also think he's worried that people will hate him in there for what he's convicted of. So that could be a legitimate fear for him. And we'll see what happens. Hopefully nothing does happen to him. He'll probably be in solitary of some sort of protection, not just in Gen Pop, because of his celebrity and because of all this. Hopefully nothing happens to him, but he is going to have to serve the time for the crime he's been convicted of. Let me know in the comments again if you think this is fair, unfair, and how you feel about this sentencing hearing as a whole and how we got to hear a lot about how the judge feels. A lot of you guys have feelings about that. Let me know what they are. Questions in the comments. Like the video on the way out. Until next time. Thanks for watching this episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you like this content, please share it with your friends. Make sure you subscribe to our page and like our videos. If you want some interaction, get in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you. If you want to know any more information about our firm or this page, you can find out in the description or visit tragoslaw.com. We post multiple times throughout the week, so make sure you hit that bell so you can get the notification and not miss out on the next episode.